Right, guys, just checking you can hear me.
I'm not on mute, am I?
Just want to hear the. Right, guys, just checking. That's perfect. All right, guys, this is going to be the first broadcast. It's going to be slightly different, like I said. Going to cover sort of a mix of things like news of the day. Um,
Know what's best for business.
I'm not with. Yeah, leave the Black Belt Barrister because I think he talked enough on his own channel. One of the things I want to say with a lot of the media that we get out there is if you select some of the sources right. Is this what's it doing? Is that zooming? Sorry, I've got two screens open because I've split on the two monitors, so I think I've confused it a little bit. So I'm just making sure it's got the right screen. Yeah. So the media, one of the things I do recommend is instead of watching a lot of it, if you do want to sort of get on the tail end of it, it is worth sort of finding people that have a bit of common sense viewpoints and then follow them along. So I found the Black Belt Barrister, for example, he has a lot of stuff in there I may not need to get into depth with, but because he keeps it up to date, the titles are often good enough to get a gist of what's going on. And I've got to admit, I'm not a big follower of the way the media is either on the left or the right, but I do get some of the bits in the middle. You know, you've got to pull in from both sides these days because you're often missing stuff from both sides. And I do think the Black Belt Barrister does try to be unbiased, but then gets dragged into it because a lot of the stuff is political, whether he likes it or not. But anyway, where is that first video we were watching? I've probably lost it now. It's about the toxic masculinity piece. Yeah, look, it's gone out my feed since we zoomed in early and I clicked the button. Unless if I go backwards. No, I don't think it's got it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to talk about, anyways, the video was basically covering on one of the mainstream media news pieces in the UK, where they sort of classify things as toxic masculinity, yet they're sitting painting males' nails on the show. Guys, if you want to paint your nails, it's fine. I've got to admit, it's not a new thing. If you're a goth or whatever, fine. It's what do you call it? Subcultures, etc. But when you try and normalize that everybody should do their nails, that's not normal. That's a problem. Because it doesn't make any sense beyond trying to push a very feminine agenda. And then they sit and wonder, like they're saying, why is depression up? Why is suicide rates up? Why is young males feeling disenfractioned and unwelcome, etc.? Because it's the environment that's being created around them. The weird thing is, oh, I've got a warning here. What's that? Put that across there. That's bit rate. Yeah, it's not a lot I can do about that, guys. I'm gonna have to run a cable or move the fibre optics from the sitting room up to the office. But if you are watching, please leave a comment so I know that somebody's listening at least. But yeah, the point being is, we're wondering why crimes are going up. We're wondering why the violence is up. And we often see it's around, it may be more prone to certain demographics, but it's certainly more prone to age groups. But why is that? Well, you've dismantled anything of value to males. That's the reality. We're in an environment where they're trying to pit everything against the white male, along with males generally. And I say that in the broader sense because if you look at the relationships on where the breakdowns in marriages are, because you do hear conversations around, if you go back to say the 70s, 90% of marriages, 90% of kids had a two-parent household, male and female. Now that's down to about 50%. There's two sides to this. Firstly, how much does that relate to immigration and cultures that have come into the country? And the other side of it is this whole piece of dissecting and destroying the family unit as if it's bad. Anti-patriarchy stuff, but without a positive reinforcement. Tino, why so many Filipino boys go homosexual? It seems to be a strong direction in the Philippines. Do you know what? I was pondering this a long time, and I don't know if it's true or not. But if you look at this single-use plastics, and I remember having a conversation with a person that deals with plastics a long time ago, and he had a metal cup and a ceramic this, because a lot of the plastics we have, I believe, give off like female pheromones. This is why you see a lot more people with things like man boobs. So if you look at the Philippines, how much plastic is getting burned? How much of it is related to plastics? Like I said, don't know if I'm right or wrong, but the guy that I was talking to was actually a scientist that deals with molecular structures and stuff as his job. So I'll put his word against mine in the sense of his knowledge will be much higher than mine on it. So that's an important thing there, is to quite simply say, I think plastic's got a lot to do with it. Microwaving all that food and things like that, because they're all in plastic containers, aren't they? Stephen Berth, good afternoon from myself and Heather. Big shout out to Stephen and Heather as well. Good to see you guys. But yeah, I think the dissecting of the family unit is a major problem. And the big problem you have at the minute is they're going bad, bad, bad. There's no replacement. They're not talking about any positive aspect. They're talking about their view, their objectives. Let's call them objectives, because it's an ideology, it's a theory, it's trying to convert what they see as their utopia. Reality is, one person's utopia is another person's nightmare. And I think that's why you're seeing, when Trump got elected, look how that split straight down the middle. Look at the Teslas being blamed for everything now. Tesla, the electric car, it's because Musk owns the company, so let's target Tesla. Yeah, but this whole electric car thing is part of that bigger piece on the left. Now suddenly he's a bad man, just because you don't agree with his politics. This is the big problem here, is a lot of people can have normal conversations like we're doing, and then a lot of people just want to shout in your face and don't want to have a expression of opinions, injection of facts or anything else. They want distortion and control, and that's the big problem here. So I looked at this stuff today about, like I said, the nails that's coming on, I think it was Sky TV. They're trying to normalise guys having nail varnish. No, I don't understand why, or like I said, where's the context for all this? But my personal view is, if you're a goth, no issue. If you want to do it, no issue. But don't tell everybody they've got to do it, because that's where it becomes an issue. It's almost like you can take that as being, we're not doing any harm, but the only opposite is Andrew Tate. Blame Andrew Tate for anything that doesn't suit this little agenda. let's talk a bit of reality here. I think there's a lot more to life than Andrew Tate. I think Andrew Tate offers a direction for some people. I think Andrew Tate has some good and bad within him. But the focus becomes just on the bad stuff, and that's the problem. Because for me, I look at the way guys are developing, and I see it within some of my son's classmates and people he hangs around with. There's a lot of people struggling. They're struggling to find identity, struggling to find out where they sit, don't know what to say to people, because we've ended up with these people that just shout if anything that doesn't suit them. And you start going, you know what? This isn't worth his hassle. You know, you're better off finding like-minded people. And this is the next bit. Oh, everyone used to have 5 friends. Most people don't have any friends anymore. Okay, but a lot of the stuff you're talking to is aimed at a very young group. Let's just say 16 to 30-year-olds, something like that, maybe. But the reality is, as you evolve as an individual, you find your hobbies. As you evolve, you find what makes you happy. As you evolve, you start to see that you don't need to have people around you all the time. As you evolve, you learn from your mistakes. As you evolve, you recognize nobody is perfect. So some stuff where somebody may have irritated the hell out of you before, you give them some space on it. You know, because you've matured, you've got older, you got smarter, you got a broader knowledge on the world. They don't talk about that stuff. That's the important bits. I would rather kids from, well, I say kids, I know some kids might not like me saying it, from say 15 to 24, were focused on what they actually want to achieve in life, because most of them don't know. All the rest of the stuff will fall in. The gender politics should be left out of it for, well, I don't agree with gender politics in schools, full stop. I don't think it's the right place for it. The same as the diversity stuff being pushed in the office space. Whatever happened to just going to work and doing your job? Now you're supposed to be Wellbeing Tuesday and Suicide Sundays, and you know, because you have like your suicide awareness. You got this, you got that. Everybody's your problem now. Now, don't get me wrong. It's nice if somebody's looking out for other people, but it shouldn't be enforced on people to suddenly be able to do it. The other side of this, I'll cover this later on, is because the more educated you are on this stuff, the more you see the people driving it don't actually follow it, which gives you a bigger frustration. I'll tell you now, because doing my counselling course was an interesting one, and obviously I'm just about through my level 7 strategic leadership course, and although it's got a structure, I must have read probably 30-40 books, done a lot of things on podcasts, done a lot of research, and you can see how a lot of this has been blinkered to suit an agenda. There's some good stuff in there, but the problem is you get the good stuff against what you're seeing is going on with the politics and the left side distorting reality. It's bizarre because they're sort of pushing against each other. Because if you open your mind to trying to absorb all of it, you start to see conflicting information. It's something I can discuss later if people are interested, because I've got a lot of the books. I can talk about the books. I can talk about the information out of the book, what I found useful, what I found practical, some of the things that I find concerning. DEI I definitely find concerning the way it's pushed in the education circuit. If you look at how the focus is around things like Black History Month, diversity and inclusivity in the workplace. Call me old-fashioned. I don't see them as leadership skills. I see them as things that you need to be aware of. But anyway, and I don't believe on the DEI at all. My view is I will base everything on output. So I want the best and brightest. I don't care where they come from. But that's at a localized level. At a national level, it's a bigger thing. But one of the key things I want to mention today, and we'll come back to this because I'll move on to the next subject, is I think we need to do a lot more on helping the youth of today actually understand some of their own history, some of their own identity, some of their own developments, how to move forward. Because in reality, they've got some major problems ahead of them. And it's not their fault. It's stuff that's been done to them by others that assume they know best. We know best. Remember feeding all those Africans with the, what was it, Live Aid and stuff? Did it fix the problem? Answers on the postcard. Okay, so that's the toxic masculinity, because we'll come back to that. I'll probably do a separate podcast purely on that, because I want to open this one up as a longer one, a broad one, just for different subjects. I don't know if I can... I'll put a timestamp on this there. So I'm testing the software as well as we're going. So the next one would be a little bit more localized. The market's crashing. Now, I would say that this is twofold, because the first one is from a global point of view. I would say it's a correction with the tariffs coming out. There'll be a lot of shit toing and throwing, and it will settle down. In my personal opinion, I'll put it this way. I've got two options on the table at the minute. I can leave my money in the stocks and shares, or I can cash it out and half my mortgage. So that's my two options at the minute, and at the moment I'm weighing up both because of a the way I look at it, I want that investment fund to grow, but if I get rid of the mortgage, I've got nothing hanging over the top of me. So it's a two-way thing on there. Will it recover? Of course it will. When will it recover? Who knows? Because you've got to bear in mind, if you suddenly have something that rallies it, so the Ukraine-Russia war suddenly ends, which isn't going to happen for probably at least another 2 months minimal. It's a lot more complex than it's been made out in the media. If that's on the end, you could probably see some shifts in some of the markets. If you see the US settle down with its trade tariffs and also its relationships with some of its key trading partners, I can see it settling down. You've got to understand there's a broader piece about the way things were coming in through Mexico and Canada, through, that was coming out of China, etc. So I do see there's a lot more to it than we often get told. And this is why I say it's depending how far you want to get into it. If you want to go, okay, I've been told this, go and look up that, go and do that, and you digging and digging and digging, trying to find all the facts. Reality is, how far do you need to go with it? At the moment, I'd say with the markets, it's either leave it in or take it out. It's up to you. I'm probably going to leave it in for now, because I do expect a recovery, and ideally it'd be nice to see the markets jump with some positive news, which would be financially beneficial. At that point, I'm going to skim off the top and hammer whatever we make on that, hopefully, straight onto the mortgage. So hopefully a win-win on that one. Next one is leadership or nonsense. So leadership or nonsense, the reason I'm bringing this one up is because of the conversations I was saying earlier about you get conflicting information. Because if you look at LinkedIn, for example, and look at its training courses, a lot of the ones are leadership. Firstly, you can see patterns in demographics. Second one is a lot of the messages are either incorrect or mixed because they seem very left wing. And you'll see it a lot, especially if people come out of the education system, because the problem in the education system, if you imagine you went to school, you're indoctrinated into this stuff, you then become a teacher, you then become a principal, and then you start doing courses online. Your viewpoint is all in that direction because that's what you've been told since you were a child. And a lot of the courses are that way, and you can see little patterns and stuff in there. The ones I do recommend, though, is looking at people that have actually made money. Now, I'm not talking about somebody who may have been lucky that, for example, was living in their was it their mother-in-law's basement doing a gym thing. There's a PB Hunters. Good evening, Matt. Good evening. Hope all's going well. There's a lot of stuff that makes sense when you look through it. So when you look at dissecting some of these, the way businesses have been run, even Trump, if you look at Trump, even if you hate Trump, look at how he works as an individual, look at how he works as a business person. If you look at the way he talks, you can see he's always very positive, even with people he doesn't like. He's always over explaining the positivity. There's this wonderful guy, this wonderful guy. That's his way of promoting a persona on that individual in the positive light. It's understanding A, the traits that some of these people have, and B, what drives them in a certain way. So for example, when you look at Simon Sinek, he is often talking about the ideal business environment where people can say, I love my job because of blah, blah, blah. Or even though I hate my job, I'm here because I've got bills to pay. My focus is on paying the mortgage, blah, 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 to try and deflect from being in a bad job. The basic one for that is its goal orientation. Your goal is, if you hate that job, is to get out of it. That's your goal orientation. So your why is to actually leave. So your focus is just carry on with the moment. So like myself doing my level 7, I've got an MBA on the back of it. But the fact is that's my current why, to finish that paperwork. Otherwise, I've had about 7 other job offers and I've turned them down at the minute because I want to wrap this up first. But the leadership stuff I do think is important. I forgot the nail one. The nail one is there. I'll just play this just so you understand what I was talking about earlier.
News broadcaster Sky News redefines stereotypes about masculinity.
Stereotypes in society and the impact they play with men.
The narrative is that male depression is increasing, but they won't tell you why. Namely, economic and social changes in Western society driven by the disappearance of manufacturing jobs.
Yes, I'll leave it at that because otherwise it's someone else's work. But like I said, I want to discuss that in more detail because I think this is a main driver, and I'm not keen on the way men and women are getting this divide and conquer. Because let's face it, it's not the majority of women; it's left noisy women that are driving the split. And a lot of women out there, there's no issues with them at all. It's just the fact is, like I said, a lot of it's indoctrination. It's stuff they're told at school, stuff they're told in the divorce courts, stuff they're told at the child courts. Oh, do you know what you can get? You can get this and get that. And the focus becomes on all women are bad, when in fact, we sort of need to get a blend of common sense in here instead of allowing the left to destroy our societies, our civilization, our environment. But anyway, that's on the masculinity stuff. We'll cover that again later. Back to the leadership stuff. There is some good stuff. If you're interested, then I'd recommend put some messages on the Discord because we can talk about it in a bigger sense. The reason for that being is I can go over some of the books, put some links and stuff in there, and I can do it at a one-to-one basis. Hello, goodbye. MGTOW out either way, much calmer, easier life. Only downside be when I get older, we make friends for that. Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, this is what I'm saying. The focus on a lot of people is, oh, male are becoming depressed. Male's this. They've got less than 5 friends. A lot of people haven't even got 1 friend. Blah blah blah. It's media hype. It's a big push on media hype, nothing more. A lot of this stuff is not new, because a lot of people, you may know 40 people in the pub, but how many of them are your friends? Yet you may spend half your life in that place. The reality is, a lot of people don't lead with their emotions, because emotions is more of a female thing, which has been driven in society lately. Yeah. Where's your MAGA hat? Have you been watching the news lately? You must be so proud. Why would I be concerned about Trump? As I said, I'm not a Trump supporter. But as I said, if you thought Kamala getting in there would have been better to you, then I think you've got more worries than I have. Yeah. Yeah. I doubt Matt cares about MAGA or Mega, mate. Yeah, 100%. I could care less. We have enough problems out there without getting wrapped up in that stuff. I'm expecting there to be some shifts in the US. It has to happen anyway. Your finances are as good as the UK's, in the fact we're in deficits. We're not talking about debt. Debt is like you bought a car for 20,000, you pay 5,000 off, and you still owe 15,000. Deficit is the interest on the debt, and when you stop being able to honour that, you're not going forward. You're always going back. If you're an individual, the best advice would be to go bankrupt, because at least you go back to zero. I can't remember that film with Larry. What's his name? Is it Larry Crow? Somebody maybe ought to tell me. It's with Tom Hanks, because the one thing he did was the one thing banks don't want, is when you give them the keys. You just write yourself off. Orion, you're invested in which markets? Mine is sort of spread, so I've been hit with some of the Tesla stuff. So I'm in what I do is I put everything in Vanguard, and then within Vanguard it's split down. See, I've got stuff in a managed ISA there, as well as some of the stuff I'm doing separately. I'll go over, you know what, I'll do Vanguard on a different day, because I'll have to sort of break it out a bit, because it's confusing when you start breaking down at the S&Ps, etc. But yeah, I mean, I can see the market stabilizing generally anyway. I mean, if you look at the Ukraine-Russia piece, if that quietens down, then I can see manufacturing for steel, etc., suddenly being more positive. Because there's a lot of impact. So a lot of the impacts, you do wonder how true things are, because it appears that a lot like the car looms and stuff will come out of Ukraine, as well as other things. So you can see some stabilization going on there. But then you've got what's going on with Taiwan and China. There's more politics going on around there. Hello, goodbye. I've been hearing that Vietnam is getting more expensive these past few months. So we believe that the prices double every 20 years. Then Southeast Asia will not be a cheap place anymore within 40 years. Well, the funny thing is, you will get price increases. And I think one of the problems we've got at the moment is energy. The energy is a big problem. I look at my cost of living in the Philippines. If the land ownership and the taxes is not much, but when you start factoring in the cost of power and the way they work on it, because I think in the Philippines, don't they? The more you use, they increase your rate, so it gets worse rather than better. I don't know if anybody's seen what's happened with Duterte as well. I think he's over in the Netherlands now, where he's been detained. Was it with the ICC? Hello, goodbye. So you can still retire there if you're 50 now, but for but for the 30-year-olds, it's going to suck. I think the markets globally are going to stabilize somewhere. Everything sort of shifts around. So although we're seeing the rise, let's put it this way: if you've got the rise of automation and the rise of AI, a lot of the jobs, if you can get power cheaper in Europe, there may be less of a need to be buying products from Asia. So there could be a drop in power. So, you know, the cost, a drop in imports, because you're then starting to go back to more raw materials and stuff, because with a blend of the manufacturing moving to automation, and then you've got AI blended with that, AI all over the service industry, a lot of call center jobs could be affected, a lot of the banking jobs could be affected, a lot of the outsourced work that went out that way could be badly affected. So you could see a devaluation in their economies over the next 20 years, or it could go the other way. Who knows? Because it all depends where we're going. All right, if you expand the index, the last 5 or 10 years, the recent pullback is just a blip. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a lot of the time the markets are, because it's often based on confidence, unless you get something that's majorly wrong, it will level out. I mean, I think I'm down. I mean, it hasn't even hit me like 10%. I don't think it's not a lot, but it's mainly to watch it doesn't sort of slide. Because I mean, luckily I've spread mine, because the UK economy is not looking so clever. Hello, goodbye. Couldn't you use solar cells in the Philippines? Yes. The reason we didn't when I was there is the quality wasn't good, and the other side of it, we had a bad typhoon that actually took the roof off one of our buildings. So that's one of the things, is the weather can be a bit of a concern, but the quality's gone up now, and there is companies actually doing it. When I was there, it was very limited. A lot of people didn't even have solar water heaters. They were overpriced, and yet it's free heating, and most people weren't even doing that. So it's all a bit odd on that side. I suppose that opens up then. I've got another question on there. Would I still retire in the Philippines or Spain? The answer is yes. I love the Philippines, and the same as I love Spain. As you can probably guess, I'm not saying I'm going to retire in the UK. I'll tell you that now. I'm not. It would have to have a major shift, because it's not just about somewhere you live. It's about the culture. It's about the environment, about the way people treat each other. And I find in Spain, a lot of people are very respectful to each other. A lot of people have a general engagement in community. In the Philippines, exactly the same. I'd say my trust levels in the Philippines and Spain are much higher than they would be with a lot of people in the UK, which isn't a good thing to be saying, but it's just in my experience that I would struggle to trust a lot of people in the UK just over there. Just the stuff that's occurring on a daily basis. I still got some good friends, don't get me wrong, and I would trust them 100%, but are you talking generally? I'd say Spain and the Philippines have got a high ranking, even though technically I would say the Philippines has got a higher crime rate than the UK, technically, because it has a lot more armed incidents, shall we say, and people will steal a lot less as well. But I do hear that the mobile phone is no longer an asset for theft in the Philippines, thanks to them being stolen in places like London, because they seem to steal them, ship them back to China, and because, they have that chip lock, it doesn't work in the Philippines. So they're buying like the latest iPhones, I believe, for about $50. Somebody may be able to correct me on that, maybe more, but the reality is stolen phones is a big business in the Philippines, to the point that it's devalued the phones, which is a positive of crime, I suppose. That you're less likely to get shot in the Philippines for having your phone out. Hello, goodbye for me. The main fear of moving to Southeast Asia is how I won't have certainty if I lose my pension. I have to survive on the ETF or 200k that maybe pays out 20k a year. And healthcare is also crap. Healthcare's always been my Achilles heel when I talk to people about moving to the Philippines, because healthcare is something people think they're in good health, they don't have to worry. But even this house here, this house I'm in, is 3 stories. So I would only need to have a bad hip operation or something when I'm a little bit older, and I'll be living in the sitting room. That's the reality. A lot of people need to sort of look ahead. It's like, I'm looking at it thinking, should we buy another property, rent it out, and then it will give us that capabilities later if we need it. So we get, say, a bungalow next, rent the bungalow out, or we buy next door because that's vacant. But then we could convert the downstairs into a bedroom because it's literally attached to our house. We could redevelop that so this becomes one big house. But the point being is thinking long term, that as we get older, we can still adapt to the environment we're in. We can adapt the environment to us. Hello, goodbye. Especially if monthly expenses double every 20 years. Yeah, like I said, I would actually look at what's driving that, because I can see China's a problem. Because when I speak to people from Thailand, Vietnam, I think a lot of the problems are from China. The reality is, like I say, energy bills are a problem. I think the water pollution's been a problem as well, and the waste management. So there is some other problems driving costs up as well. Because even in the Philippines, I've heard some strange costs for things like onions and potatoes. So a lot of stuff may not be obvious what's driving it beyond corruption. So be interesting to see what occurs. I mean, I have to look at those stats. Let me write that down. Yeah, let's drag some of the stats up and have a look at them. Because I get it if you've got population growth, and I get it if you've got corruption, which just sounds like the UK now. But I do wonder what the main factors are driving those costs up. We'll have a look at that. So I've got another 2 points on this one as well, which is slightly back to where we were, which is rising above it all and reprogramming the mind. The reason I bring these up is because a lot of people I find lately are agitated by things that are outside of our control. I mean, I went to the market this morning, and because people keep talking about the boats and the people coming in from Africa and whatever, you start to notice things that were already there. It's because they've been put in your head as a thought pattern. What you need to do is sort of separate it out, because, for example, there's some of the, I might have clipped on one of my videos where there's two black guys and a black woman pushing a car, but they've been here for they've been here longer than me, probably 20 years. But you start thinking, oh, what's going on? Why are they there? Blah, blah, blah. And it's because we've been driven that way. It's like the UK, the focus goes on the boats, but it's actually looking at the real migration and what that is by dissecting the figures and what people actually produce in the country and what the return on investment in that is. Because I work on a very simple system. What's it costing me? That's it. What's it costing me? If we influx the UK with a few million people, what's it costing me? We ended up with the food goes up, electric goes up, rents go up, mortgage go up, quality of life goes down, and the expenditures for the general populace that work goes up to accommodate those that can't or won't work. And the big problem with politics is it sort of sits with, as soon as you start looking, like, say, at benefits, they start going, it's bad, don't look over there, because these are vulnerable people, these are this is this. Oh, NHS England, just get rid of NHS, oh, it's bad. They don't look at the actual facts and dissecting out what is actually going on. When you look at the benefit system, and a lot of people are getting a stupid amount of money simply for having lots of kids, or living on more for free than people are actually working for a living. It's no longer a benefit system, it's actually a golden way of living. I mean, let's face it, just because you've got kids or on one of these PIPs or whatever, and you can fake it, and people do. There's a lot of people I know that fake their health because they get money for it, and they're earning more than me by simply committing fraud. Orion, if you move to the Philippines, is it better to just rent cheap than buy a place and have to deal with everything associated with it? I'd recommend renting, because, like you say, you don't have to deal with the headaches. But also, it can be hard to sell a property as well once you bought it. So I'd recommend, if you're going out there, rent, maybe move around for a year, get used to the different areas, because you'll find some areas you like, other areas you don't. You get bored over there. You suddenly go, oh, I haven't been here before, and you suddenly like that area because it's got a bigger expat community, or maybe it's got a yacht club or golf course or whatever you want out of the environment, but it may not be relevant at this moment. So, for example, you go out there and you're not really into golf or whatever, but then you get bored of everything else. So then you start taking up golf, and then you go, oh, I want to move near the golf course, because you start going regularly. I'm just using golf courses as an example, by the way, but it could be yachting, it could be scuba diving, could be pretty much anything. I mean, green bowls, there is green bowls clubs, but you may want to move to a different location. If you purchase a property, you're probably not going to get a good return on investment on it anyway, unless the prices keep shooting up. Because, I mean, if you can sit on land, but bear in mind, the land ownership's the other issue. So we own our properties, because obviously my wife is the landowner as such, and they can own land. My wife can own land, a foreigner can't. So I can own the building, but I can't own the land it sits on. So that's the other side. You put a lot of trust in someone else, unless you get a condo, and then you've got to look at service charges. The costs of electrics and stuff can be more expensive in the city as well. So you've got to factor in a few things. My personal view is I'd recommend moving around and just seeing what you like, and then probably wouldn't buy, because you could probably earn more money, more interest on the money by having it in the bank. But yeah, going back to rising above it all, one of the things, like I was saying, is realise the politics at the moment is so left and right, and we need to sort of move past a lot of that stuff. The divisions have always been there. The influx of people into the UK, if it wasn't the Africans and it wasn't the Pakistanis, let's go back to the Poles, the Polish plumbers, the Polish dentists, and then you had after that you had the Brexit, all the Poles should go home, all that sort of stuff. As you probably noticed, the language is very similar, but the colour of the people is different. Now, I get a lot of people don't contribute to society. I get that, and I do think I'd be more in line with Spain, that doesn't give anywhere near what the UK does to people that come in with to freeload, and it's the freeloaders that are the problem. That's the bit that needs to be curbed. We should stop all the housing benefit. You should stop. My view is very simple. If you haven't paid anything into the system, you're not entitled to anything till you put 5 years into the system. End of. I don't want to hear the hard luck stories or whatever. I didn't invite you. You came. You turned up to my doorstep. You wanted to live in my country. Respect it and work hard in there. Because if we did that, quite simply, there wouldn't be as many people as there is now, because a lot of them do not contribute a single thing to the economy. That reminds me of something else, actually. Let's have a look at Britain. So this is something. Where is it? I'm not really interested in the school itself. Where is it? So this is something that sort of appeared because like I said, I'm doing this course at the minute. They talk about the British values as if it's always been there. This is something that's evolved because, for example, very rarely do I hear people in the UK say the word liberty, which screams this has probably had some American influences in there somewhere. Democracy, tolerance, respect, liberty, rule of law. We've got problems with our democracy. The tolerance bit is the bit where you're supposed to just put up with whatever the government's currently doing to us. The respect is obviously a broader spectrum as well. I'll break these down. What I'll do is I'll go and find these documents and I'll bring them out just to have a look at, because one of the important things I want to say on this is to do with saying this has always been here. This is reprogramming. This is dismantling what is being British. And I think this gets back to the toxic masculinity. Why are people depressed? Why are males falling out of schools? Why are females taking all the best jobs? Why is this? I know some of you may even argue that. What do you mean we're taking all the best jobs? It's gone that way. That whole Me Too thing, that whole women in business, girl boss and stuff has manipulated things beyond belief. And it's now gone completely the other way. But it doesn't mean they're good at it, because people are getting put into roles without actually having the skills, the abilities, and often even a bit of empathy thrown in there. It's often this driver, like I said, from childhood through school, that they deserve it, that men are bad, blah, 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 patriarchy is horrible, all this sort of stuff. And my view is we need to dismantle all that and actually put it back where it was, because the system got distorted in the 60s when things started moving away from the ability of a choice of having a job to people realizing if both parents worked, they could buy a house. Or, instead of renting a house, you could buy a house, or you could have a bit more. And then it's moved to, okay, we can get more money out of these two people. So, funny enough, we create an environment where we inflate the values of homes, we inflate the values of everything around us, because what happens is we start spending more because we're sort of gaining more, because you've got two households, two parent households, 2.4 children environment. And over time, houses became a commodity. It became an asset and no longer a home. And it's just kept going and going. But now we're sitting at the other end of it going, some people don't want to work full time now. Some people don't want both parents at work. Oh, kids are sitting at home on their own, having coming home at night and having a takeaway, not having a home cooked meal because both parents are at work still. The whole environment's been dismantled. And the weird thing is, the assumption it can't go back to that is probably more crazy than accepting what we're currently dealing with is normal. Because my view is it does need to change, and I think a lot of the traditional stuff has a lot more value to people as individuals. Hence, let's say reprogramming the mind, it's actually having a look at stuff that's gone before. Having a look at your own history rather than history that's sort of been indoctrinated over the last 20, 30 years. Isn't it weird over the last 20, 30 years as well? People, the education's been starting to fail. It's all tied together with the same stuff, because what does an education involve? It involves discipline. It involves research and commitment. Yet we're being proactively stripping away our own environment due to stuff that's going on within the politics of certain people. And I do think it's that shift from where we were, which used to be, you may have had a frustration with the king, well, being under a monarchy as a kid or whatever in the UK, to now you may see King Charles as he's selling the nation out. You may see him as he's controlled by others. You may see that it's not a banner to follow, because of the way things have slowly been stripped away, layer by layer by layer, from inside out. I know it sounds very political today, but it's more to do with, once you can see it, you just step out of it and you just start focused on what you can deal with. Which in many cases is actually just dealing with with your own kids, making them aware of stuff. I mean, I'll give you a good example, because this is actually quite relative, but it's actually from an adult perspective. When we come out of the Philippines, I had a conversation with my wife about what they call the aunties. These are the women that are already overseas, often divorced. And they will try to get your wife to leave you. They'll start to go, oh, smile at your face while talking to your wife, telling her what she can get out of you. Do you realise you're entitled to half the house? Do you realise you can get half of this? Do you know that you'll have to pay you this? Blah, blah, blah. Because they destroyed their lives, and they will encourage others to do exactly the same. Unfortunately, that's the same as what's happening with kids today being told about toxic masculinity. There's no such thing. Being told patriarchy is a bad thing. It's not. Patriarchy is not. It's a foundation of human civilization. And it only seems to be, let's face it, is it only the white nations dismantling this? Correct me if I'm wrong. Hello, goodbye. Let's be honest, King Charles doesn't have the same gravitas as the Queen. Yeah, I mean, I've got to admit, the coronation for me looked a bit of a comedy sketch. I'll leave it there. I just didn't. It didn't inspire me to think this is a person that leads. Then there was the pen incident thing, which also wasn't a great thing to be caught. The next thing is to find your space, and this is where it's sort of, you've got to create your own sort of sanctuary in your own space. I know a lot of people talk about the well-being as like going sitting in the garden with wind chimes and flowing waters, but one of the things I do is I'm sort of stepping out of the nonsense bits. Even if I'm watching TV shows, they're mainly stuff from the past. So, for example, I'm watching SG1. I'm on series 6 at the minute, but I watch things that are before the distortion. The reason being is I don't have to sit there and see somebody magically becomes gay that wasn't really in the original script or in the original book or whatever, because they're trying to fit an agenda, a political ideology that they're trying to force on people. I don't need it. You don't need it. I know a lot of gay people simply because having a call center in the Philippines, there was at least 12 different varieties of the community in there. But you know what? I didn't need to put a flag up. I didn't need to make them feel special for just going to work and doing their jobs. They can do what they like outside of work, the same as anybody else. What they are doing is their business. It's like, I don't understand this whole childlike mentality that's been driven on people. Why we need to be involved in other people's business. I'm not interested. I don't need people to tell me, oh, by the way, did you know? I didn't need to know. What I'm interested in is, we're working together. Can you do the project that you've been given? Beyond that, not really interested. And funny enough, I've seen a video. I partly watched it on was it Legion of Men, where he was talking about the fact that somebody had a problem that he wouldn't share his home life. Not that he has it, but it was one of the videos he was covering. That's me. I worked with a guy for probably 3 years, Steve. I don't know the name of his, now ex-wife, or his kids. He doesn't know the name of my wife or his kids, yet we worked all day and we stayed in the hotel. I mean, we were literally spending more time together than our partners, but we just focus on work and maybe do a bit of golf. Where if we've got a bit of downtime, and we'll go off and do a bit of, what do you call it? Go to the range or something. But the reality is, work and home life is separate. The reason they bring these two things together is because the indoctrination. This is to blend and change. You try and force your perceptions to change, because they're trying to normalize things that wouldn't normally have been in a workplace, say 30 years ago. We just didn't need it. It didn't happen. It's because they're trying to push stuff in. What's the next one? Okay, last one for the day. This is something you may find interesting, may not. This is to do with the tech, and I'll do this on a separate piece. Because, for example, I do a lot of audio books because, as you probably guess, I spend a lot of time on the screen and it's not doing my eyes any good. But I'm just thinking So for example, I take an audio book. I take a book and make it an audio book so I can listen to it. Are you interested in that sort of stuff? Are you interested in AI technology? Are you interested in robotics? Because I can expand this stuff out. Are you interested in asset management? Two types, financial and also the building stuff I deal with, which sort of blends in with finances. Another one, probably facilities management. But I'm interested in doing the tech stuff more as well, because as I start moving the asset management piece forward in the UK, I can see the BIM modeling becoming a bigger thing, be more of an interaction with the Internet of Things as well. And I'm starting to look at how I can sort of step into that, because I deal with it on spreadsheets, physical buildings, and BIM is an area I'm going to be expanding into. So if anybody's interested in that stuff, happy to share anything that I get involved in. Same with anything around facilities management generally, things like Regulation 38. What else have we got? CDM, Construction Design Management. The Golden Thread. There's a lot of stuff that's developing in the current environment, because what you find is a lot of contracts, they start off with, say, a book with all the information. You know, it's an O&M, operations and procedures manual. So you get all your manuals at the beginning. By the time somebody's had that account for about 5 years, it's down to about 2 pages because they've lost most of it. Which means, A, they're not updating it because during that time they would have had construction work, renovation work, painted some rooms, changed the carpet, put electric chargers in, put solar panels in, and a lot of it doesn't get documented because they just haven't bothered. Because there's always this thing in FM, it's a massive problem in facilities management, someone else will do it. And they all just sit there, because even when you send stuff out to people because it's their responsibility, they'll ignore emails intentionally because they don't actually deal with you. Not you personally, but in the sense of if they accept the email, they've got to acknowledge there's a problem. Because of the way PFI and PPP contracts are, they're sort of midstream, and I think there's about 300 PFI contracts coming to the end over the next, is it this year? It might be definitely within the next few years anyway. At least 300 contracts coming to an end. And a lot of them have not kept up to date with their legislation documents. They haven't kept up to date with managing their finances. They haven't kept up to date with the variations inside the buildings where you've had alterations. So they won't be 100% where their fire compartmentation is correct, their fire strategies are correct, the fire doors have been maintained. 100. See, I don't talk about this stuff too much because quite simply it is boring, tedious unless you're into it. But that could be another route that we can talk about stuff. If there's anything else anybody wants to talk to, now's the time to mention it. On the next one, what I'll do is I'll do some I'll clip a load of these on the top so that we can actually cover them. So what's this one?
Peter, guess my nationality. I'm from Pakistan.
Well, what are you doing in our country then? You're eating all our food and drinking all our drink? I don't know, it's disgusting. Where are your parents then?
Back in my country.
Well, that's where you should be, Prince.
Do you want me to get out of the country?
Send the boats back.
I've got a good way of doing that. I'm not going to tell you though, because you might run.
Peter, guess my nationality.
See, a lot of this stuff as well, got to be careful because a lot of this is obviously baited. But anyway, I'm going to leave that to one side because obviously, see, this is what happens. Like I said, one of the big things you'll see down here is my subscriptions, GB News, Black Belt Barrister, Podcast of Lotus Eater, Richard IV. Because a lot of the time, I'm just after the news headlines rather than the actual videos. But I can see Richard IV's quite an interesting channel, by the way, because I think he's trying to expand it out in a similar way I'm trying to. But I do think we're in a strange environment, that's for sure, for the UK. I know this video is a bit UK centric. And I apologise for that, but we'll see what we do with the next ones, because like I said, this is like just to get things started. All right, I'll finish off on one thing. There was an interesting video with Katie Hopkins today. She's probably gone off somewhere. But she's on about the Nigel Farage and the reform things. Because the reform thing today, because obviously there's a lot of internal politics, and I know although they're arguing, I think they could have managed things better the way they're arguing. If you have or haven't watched it, if you haven't watched it, you're probably not going to be interested. But one of the key things I would say, that's why I would say Farage is not somebody that would be my sort of politician. Is he is somebody that just sort of goes down the route of trying to appease the middle ground, which we already have two parties that promise it, then don't deliver on it. So getting a third one isn't really going to help. And I don't see reform being able to group enough people to actually get enough authority to actually have power in the UK either. I think we're going to be stuck with what we've got, and let's face it, that's why we've got a two-party system, unfortunately. I don't think we've got a strong leader with any direction on there. Yeah, we'll see where that ends up. But at the moment, I think this is part of the problem. I think the UK needs to level its expenses. I mean, the people that are paying for everything at the minute, the people that work for a living, are getting to a point where it's not financially viable to keep doing it. Yeah, can you explain? What's your comment above? Yes, because for me, if you imagine, they're already talking about the number of millionaires that have left the UK. You also talk about the migration of who's what's going in and what's coming out. What they haven't explained is nobody sort of going, what is the average person that is coming in and those going out value as an asset? Not about training courses. I'm not on about going, oh, he's a doctor. Yeah, and he probably isn't. How much money are they taking out and bringing in? Simple thing. Because if you're suddenly going, okay, this person that's leaving has just took 4.5 million. How many people coming in is going to contribute to balance that account? As you can see, I'm very simple on it. It's just mathematics. Because if you're just creating a deficit, if somebody's constantly in your pocket, like when you go to the pub and then somebody's always going, I forgot my wallet. If you buy this one, I'll buy you one back next week when I'm in. And he does it for about 3 weeks. After that, you're like, you tell them where to go. The point being is, everybody's in our pocket. We're not getting anything. They're not paying it off. It's not going to be fixed. Good show. Next, this is hello, goodbye. Good show. Next time you can perhaps talk about good expat communities in the Philippines, together with expenses, safety, etc. I'm just marking pronouns, but TFM is a MGTOW. He does podcasts as well, 47 hours. TFM, I'll have a look for that. You know what? I'll carry on for a bit because I'm waiting for my son to tell me he needs a pickup so I can. I mean, community-wise, in the Philippines, I've been out of the country for a while, but just be very careful with the politics between individuals because they got into these silly things of jailing each other and getting each other deported. So let's have a look for. Let's have a look for Barry Jordan because I know somebody brings up Barry Jordan.
Alleged illegal alien, American Barry Lee Jordan remains jailed after being apprehended by Bureau of Immigration operatives for violating the Philippine immigration laws. Immigration Commissioner Norman Tancinco said Barry Lee Jordan, a 48-year-old American, was arrested in Carcar City, Cebu on April 28 for his alleged overstaying in the country for more than 7 years. He did not have any travel documents and was charged with undesirability for threatening a bartender with a knife while live streaming on the internet, Tansinko said.
Yeah, so Barry Jordan rented an apartment from me ages ago, and he moved on. It was no issue to me, but the thing is, even that people try to make an issue of. So one of the things I want to say is I never had any real issues with Barry, and the overstaying thing is a common thing in the Philippines where a lot of expats think they'll get away with it, but it can become a very, very big problem. I'm not sure if Barry's even out of the containment, because in the immigration office, I think it's in Mindanao, detainment office, they've got like a prison cell, and I think he's been stuck there. I mean, it's been, last time I think he'd been there over a year. Last time I looked. But I find Barry's one of those people you could help and they would still manage to make a complete foobar of it. So I like I said, my wallet, I'll help you out once, I'll help you out twice. Third time, don't come near me. Oh yeah, the Discord link. Yeah, I'll have to find it because I forgot to do it. I'll add
Alleged
it next
illegal
time.
alien.
Yeah. But yeah, so one of the things I'll say, be careful of the community in the Philippines. There's some good people and there's a lot of dubious people out there as well. But we can have it. I'll go through it. I will do that on the next one. I'll pull some channels out so we can have a look at it. Yeah, I'll put the Discord in. It was on the last video, so I'll stick it in for the next one. But anyway, guys, I think I'll leave it at that for now because we've covered a few topics, and I know we'll talk about Philippines communities. What I'll do as well, maybe I'll split them up. So I'll do a specific one on the Philippines, and I'll do a specific one on Spain, so that the content's relevant, like you say, make it relevant to the podcast itself, so you know exactly what it is, so you don't have to come on ones you're not interested in. But like I said, we talk about Regulation 38. I'm sure most of you guys wouldn't know what it is and couldn't care less about it, but it's actually to do with the documentation for things like fire doors and things like that when you have construction work. But anyway, guys, I'm going to disappear now. But yeah, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. And I'll stick the Discord on the video in a minute. So when you see it appear in my stream, I'll put it in the description on there so you can actually see it. So if you want to join the Discord, please feel free to. Also, the advantage with the Discord is you can share some things with me as well that may not be may be difficult to share on YouTube. So, for example, you want to send me a link, you can send it through on the Discord, and I can review what it is you sent through. And it doesn't even need to be on the live stream. It might be something for the next live stream. Really appreciate anybody's input, anybody's help on it, because bizarrely I work a lot. So getting material together, it'd be nice if people give me some touch points to go and look for it and do a bit of research. All right, thanks for watching, and thanks everybody. Appreciate it. And hello, goodbye. Bye, Matt.